very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and all our distinguished delegates here. We're delighted to have you to share your knowledge and insights at the virtual CXO Boardroom hosted by SA Global and Microsoft. My name is Bhavna Bhatia and I shall be your host for today. And on behalf of SA Global and Microsoft, we thank you all for joining us. Well, our today's discussion will be on the 2Ps of the IT service organization. We're looking at talking about measuring productivity and profitability. Well, I'm honored to introduce to you our esteemed speakers for today. We've got Mr. Kapil Gupta, Country Head SA Global India. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for joining us. We've got Priyadarshini L, Senior Director, Product Development and Delivery, SA Global India. Thank you so much, Ms. Priyadarshini, for joining us. And of course, we've got Mr. Rajiv Pirada, the Industry Advisor, IT/IDES vertical of Microsoft, joining us. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv. Well, with this, we're going to be going through topics such as how can CFOs deliver profitable projects by harnessing the power of data, the use of insights for proactive project forecasting, planning, and assessment, and of course, the importance of streamlining data sharing to drive collaboration. We'd like to encourage certain house rules which will make this boardroom more engaging and more exciting. Well, we'd encourage you to please ask your questions to our panelists by typing them in the chat box. The chat functionality can be accessed simply by clicking on the speech bubble towards the top right of your screen. Please feel free to type your questions anytime during the session, but of course, it'll be picked up at the end of the session if time allows, and of course, I leave it up to the moderator to take forth the call on that. Also, during the session, to make it more engaging, we've got poll questions which will be popping up on your screen. We would be happy if you answer those polls to share your views, because after getting those views, it can help us to moderate the conversation better and help us to know what you're looking for as well. So on submitting your response, click done and the window shall close. But the poll will remain active in the chat window just for your convenience. We would love to see your reactions. So if you like something about the speakers, please feel free to use the emoticons available next to the speech bubble. So we'd love to see some engagement from our audience and our esteemed delegates who have taken out their valuable time. Also, something more exciting coming up, well, Microsoft and SA Global have an exclusive offer for those attending the event. So remember that during the course of the event, I'm not going to tell you exactly when that's going to come up, but we're going to leave that to our team to, pop in that exclusive offer, which will happen for all the ones who are attending the event. So further details will be given during the session. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, it is time for us to have a great session. Joining us on the panel, we've got Mr. Rajiv, Mr. Kapil, and Ms. Priyadarshini, who've taken out their valuable time, and they're on the screen right now. Thank you so much for joining us today. Kapil, over to you to take it forth.
Thanks a lot, Bhavna. Good start as always. I don't know if I can keep that happy moment for the rest of the duration, but I'll try my best. Thank you, guys. Thank you everyone for joining this session. I know it's valuable time that you're investing into it. So really hope that this would be as productive as we have tried to make it to be for you. And we would look forward to further interactions coming from you even after this session. Let me take this opportunity to quickly introduce Rajiv and Priya a bit better here. First of all, Rajiv, it's always a pleasure, Rajiv, talking to you, and especially, coming in from a Microsoft standpoint, it brings in that confidence for SA Global as a good partner to Microsoft, right? So it speaks a lot when a senior person from Microsoft comes and attends these discussions with us. But quickly about Rajiv. Rajiv has been an industry veteran. He has been in the IT industry for a lot of time, and he has performed very senior roles in this industry. He has played roles of chief operating officers in some of the best known IT companies. Happiest Minds is one of those companies where he has performed that role. He has been he's been a very senior role in DXC as well, setting up entities across Middle East, Asia, and has been instrumental in working across various domains in advising customers in the way they consume IT services, in the way they draw value out of the IT projects, and at the same time, he's been advising companies in the ITS sector right now who are on the path of digital transformation. So I think his experience here in this conversation is extremely valuable because I'm sure we would be able to bring up some of the challenges that all of us as IT industry companies are facing these days, and especially from a perspective of the finance leaders who are the major participants here in this conversation. So thank you again, Rajiv, for joining this conversation. Uh,
Thank you, Kapil.
Priya is SA Global. She is heads product development and has been in the Dynamics space for over 20 years. Has a lot of experience across the platform. She has worked with various customers in implementing very complex solutions that in the space of primarily from a perspective of finance, and at the same time leading these transformations in companies which are globally spread out. Okay, so thank you, Priya, again for joining this session again. Thank you very much. Look forward to have a very engaging discussion with you again this time. And then not take a lot of time, but probably a few words about SA Global as a company. We have been SA Global has been primarily a Microsoft Dynamics partner for over 30 years now. We've seen almost every version of this platform come and evolve, right? And at this point of time, we're really happy to be part of Microsoft community as a partner that is in their inner circle. And inner circle is basically those top 1% partners who work very closely with Microsoft from their Redmond office as well in terms of developing the product that you see over here, right? Of course, about 900 plus people in the company who are fundamentally the experts in this area, and we have presence across 25 countries as well. So that's a bit about SA Global, folks. I will move this discussion ahead towards some of the core thinking that we drive. We believe that today's organizations are heavily investing towards making their processes right for global operations. We're constantly acquiring companies. We're constantly changing the way we deliver projects, and we deliver a whole range of projects across from time and material to value-based offerings these days. And hence the core foundation of the companies is changing, and we believe very strongly in providing solutions to establish a very solid foundation to the organizations from the process, from the data perspective, to make sure that you can then excel ahead in areas of driving the right insights, the real time value of data, your ability to take decisions on various entities, various projects, viewed in different dimensions. And then, of course, I think today's organizations, uh, especially in our industry where knowledge is everything, right? We are fundamentally a set is the people who have the knowledge with them, and our ability to collaborate better with them, to engage them into your customer engagements in a far more efficient way is by far the most important thing. And hence collaboration between our customers, between our employees, and at the same time even suppliers, because in most cases we're working with suppliers even contracts form or in the form of products that we are delivering to our customers. So it's a connected world that we are talking about, and hence a platform that solves these problems is very important for us. So that's where the SA Global thinking lies, and our products really answer that on top of the Microsoft platform. So having talked a bit, hopefully this has given a bit of a context to the entire discussion. And I wanted to get on to Rajiv here. And earlier in the conversation with Rajiv, he's always been talking to me about the need of our organizations to be far more connected, right? So connected enterprise and continually improving connected enterprises is what he talks about very, very passionately. Rajiv, do you want to touch upon that a bit and explain what you really mean by this?
Sure, sure. Thanks, Kapil. Thanks for the introduction. And Thanks for all the people who've taken the time out. Every organization out there is today talking about digital transformation, right? If you really break and want to really understand what digital transformation is, it simply means one thing, right? It's about enhancing the experience of your employees, enhancing the experience of your customers, enhancing the experience of your partners and your vendors, right? End of end of the day, it's all about how do you really look at enhancing the experience of all the stakeholders that are part of your ecosystem. Now, for you to really enhance the experience, one of the key things is how do you really provide the unexpected, right? When somebody I'm not expecting really comes and wishes me on my birthday, I think that's an experience that I carry for some time with me, right? So what really drives enhanced experience, a key element of what drives enhanced experience and thereby digital transformation is how do you really get insights to be able to predict something and then produce something that people are not expecting that makes it more seamless. So in that context, I think data becomes extremely important in any enterprise. The challenge that we really have today in the enterprises is not the lack of data. Data exists in the enterprises, right? But the data is not connected enough, or data doesn't really reside in a single repository for us to be able to get the view that we want from the data and be able to make data-driven decisions. That is where the concept of connected enterprises really come into picture. Let me give you an example that's more pertinent to what each of us go through day in and day out in our lives, right? Most of the times as CFOs or as finance leaders, one of the biggest challenges that you will tend to see is when your forecast really doesn't match with your actuals, right? And most of the operation leaders, and I've done it for enough years in my life, the answer is, I didn't get resources on time to be able to really meet the forecast for you to be able to recognize the revenue, right? Not getting a resource is not something that, or the want of a resource is not a requirement that pops up all of a sudden, right? If you really look at the value chain of how a project need or a request comes in, right? Sometimes it starts with a marketing campaign. Sometimes it really starts with, an account executive, an account manager really pursuing a deal. And it goes through its own sales cycle before an SOW or a project work order is signed and the want of resources comes in. So the data essentially sits somewhere in the ecosystem that really gives you a trigger that this is what is coming in. But the fact that your marketing data doesn't seamlessly flow from your marketing to your sales or slash CRM to your project operations is what really makes the situation look like a just-in-time request, and thereby potentially leading to revenue leakage in some cases. And on the back end, there are situations that we as operational leaders tend to face where you will actually have, you would have got the request, by hook or crook, you would have really fulfilled the resource requirements to be able to start the project, only to realize 2 weeks down the line that the same skill sets are actually ramping down in another area within the organization, thereby impacting your utilization. These are aspects, about 2 weeks back, you're worried about revenue leakage, and 2 weeks into the project, you're worried about your utilization. I think, what is really causing some of these discrepancies, for the lack of a better word, is really, lack of a connected enterprise, right? We are today no longer talking about applications. We're not talking about point solutions. We're talking about a platformized experience, which ensures that, there is a process flow that happens and that really, is able to pull in the required interventions against each of the processes that are important and critical for an organization to run. And I think that's the whole concept of an enterprise ecosystem, couple that I keep, passionately talking about, for the lack of a better word.
You're absolutely right, Rajiv. Uh, what I've also seen is that while these are the operational challenges that exist in the organization, and often the data exists, right? I think it is the finance organization which is probably towards the end, right, in that value stream, in that sense, right, where finally a bill needs to be raised or invoice needs to be raised by the finance organization, and then profitability, your ability to control costs, look at cash flows, DSOs, etc., become such an important metric that a finance organization drives into the organizations, right? And I'm sure that our finance leaders here, right, would be facing some of those challenges within their organization as well, because ultimately it is the finance organization which is then looking at the core metrics on which the top line and the bottom line of an organization really depend on, right? uh, you want to kind of add something there, Rajiv?
Yeah, so I think, as we really talk about challenges, right? I think it's also important for us to realize what's happening across the industry, right? So there is transformation, that's happening across all enterprises today, right? But let's dwell, really focus in on why, what is the transformation that's happening within the financial management, right? And why is it really happening, right? I mean, some of the industry stats really are, Gartner predicts by about, by 2024, 60% of the mid-sized financial management application projects and 30% of the large and the global financial management projects will adopt public cloud. So that's about adoption of the cloud, which is a critical element around transformation. Right? Yeah. Hackett Group, in a survey, found out that 70% of the financial and accounting leaders really say what's causing a delay in financial closure and accounting operations is the mammoth of manual tasks that really need to be done. And there are solutions that are evolving and that are being embraced today, which really automate a lot of manual tasks, right? I think one of the operational challenges that most of the CFOs really face is the cross-functional collaboration, right? To bridge the gap between the operational planning and the financial planning. And that's very crucial, right? Yeah. I think, if you really see the themes that are really evolving around what finance leaders are today focusing is cloud adoption, automation, and around seamless integration between the people, the processes, and the systems, right? To an extent where today Gartner, if you really look at it, has moved away from a financial management, system management magic quadrant to what's called a service-centric ERP magic quadrant. And that's in recognition of the fact that every professional services organization today wants to be a services organization, right? Mm-hmm. So what do we really mean? Is it just a change in name when you really say, financial management ERP to a service-centric ERP? No, it's got a clear definition of what a service-centric ERP means, right? As you rightly said, I think finance is the starting point and the ending point in the whole value chain of how you run your, delivery and project operations, right? If you have to get an end-to-end visibility, the ability to really see how your resourcing is happening, the ability to really see what are the levers of your revenue recognition, the ability to really connect your human resources system to the impact it will have on finance, right? This is a comprehensive platform that really need to evolve. And just talking about our products, that's what Dynamics 365. If you really look at it, whether it's a marketing or sales or service or finance and operations that really give, right? I think the expectation from a transformation is a platform that is integrated, that really provides an end-to-end visibility, and that really lets the finance leaders to be able to better forecast and better predict the risks that are associated or that are emanating from the operations that happen day in and day out within the organizations. Yeah. Does that?
I think, yeah. So when I look from a perspective of an enterprise, right, and looking at from a perspective of finance, I think it's important to note that a platform or Dynamics 365 is a platform which has been fundamentally designed in the way of modular functional functional modules which exist, right? It starts from finance. But at the same time, then I think the core ability that comes through is that seamless integration that you talked about, Rajiv. Common data platform below that, kind of really connects everything that is happening across your value chain as well. Then, right? And I think from that perspective, that adoption becomes probably easier because you can incrementally build across your processes and keep streamlining them towards your business specialties or USPs that you carry in the organization. Right.
Right. So I think, two or three things, Kapil, that are of immense importance as we really talk about the platform-based approach, or what are the products that you really want to, or the solutions you really want to adopt, right? It's not about today, right? I think all of us live in a business ecosystem and a world that's continuously changing, right?
Correct. Yes.
The professional services organizations are no longer a linear revenue model, right? It's not X number of people that are producing, Y amount of dollars as a billable revenue, right? We today talk about, various modes of engagement, right? Gone. I mean, it's not that T&M doesn't exist anymore, right? It does, but there are varied engagement and commercial models that are in practice. More than that, there's also a lever around, given the skill shortage, given the need of a particular skill within a particular engagement, there's a lot of leverage utilization of resources, right?
Yes.
So all of these factors, really make the whole connotation of what happens with a knowledge worker and how much of time of a knowledge worker can you potentially get and utilize becomes a very critical from an operations standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And that puts immense amount of pressure on being on systems and tools to be able to translate that operational reality into something that becomes a true reflection of how you want to generate revenue out of it, right?
Yeah.
Which impacts both top line as well as bottom line, right? So given this, I think you need to plan for systems that can evolve, that can learn by themselves, right? And that can actually predict what you can do, right? Well, I don't think anyone today has all the answers, or anyone can even predict what's coming in, right? So I think what's critical is to really pick up a platform that ensures that you don't have to tweak every time there's a change, a platform that's secure, a platform that's scalable. So let me spend a little bit of time on how does Dynamics really cater to that, right? Well, it's a cloud platform, as all of you're aware, right? And it comes with all the security controls that Azure can provide. So from that standpoint, it's SaaSified, it's quite secure, right? But what is important is also the fact, let's talk about the scalability of the platform in itself, right? The From a scalability of a platform, and given the how the organizations really want to establish entities in different this one today, Dynamics offers support for about 45 countries and 48 different languages, right? That should really be a reflection of the scalability of the platform, that you really don't have to worry about how you really want to. If you really go into a new country, how does it really work? And on top of it, there are over 50 solutions that are built on top of it to cater to the ever evolving need, which are available on app source, as an example, right? Not only that, right? Our Power Platform, which has Power Apps and Power Automate, has a seamless integration to really drive the extensibility of the platform, right? As an example, I mean, one of the key features is that the common data model, which we call the Dataverse, right?
Yeah.
Is common for Power Platform as well as Dynamics 365. What that means is all the data that's actually coming in from Dynamics really sits in our common data model. And when you want to extend the platform using Power Apps, it becomes so seamless for us to be able to leverage the data and then do it. So you really don't have to build in, integrations, additional integrations, on top of it. And I think, most of the enterprises continue to use our modern workplace M365 suite. And there is, whether it's integration with Teams to give, one window for people to work and things like that. I think those are all inherent Microsoft benefits that come in. So again, to the point where I started around connected enterprise, right? We are not only talking about connecting the systems, we are also talking about connecting the experience of people. Yes. And also driving extensibility.
Sure. Perfect. So Rajiv, let's extend this discussion a bit, because I think you touched upon the aspects of modularity, mm, the aspects of automation, aspects of experience, and the aspect of connected data, right? That comes naturally with the Dynamics 365 platform. But I think the further aspect that that needs a focus is also about how does this platform really behave towards the specific needs of the ITS industry, right? And of course, the Microsoft platform itself is very strong when it comes to executing for project-based industries. I think I wanted to, kind of extend this discussion now to Priya as well, because she comes in from a perspective of the IP and the product development that happens in SA Global. And SA Global is a company that is primarily working towards the professional services industries. That's a core vertical that we operate in. So with that thought in mind, Priya, do you want to quickly touch upon the experiences, the asks that you have seen in various conversations within the ITS sector? What are the key concerns? What are the key asks, the CFOs that you generally talk to?
Definitely. I think when we speak to the CFOs, either in the pre-sales engagements or in the implementation arena, right, we see that there is a repeated ask more so around either project on firstly on the project profitability, with the visibility around how the project is performing, on for a certain period or for beyond a certain period. If it is within one company, this data is fairly available and is pretty precisely accurate in the out-of-the-box solution as well. But then the challenge comes in when this particular project or it's spread across multiple companies, and in these companies there are ERPs, different systems, as Rajiv was rightly saying, right? Then it becomes a little bit of a challenge to get all of this data under one pool and be able to draw out a lot of data-driven analysis, so that you can take decisions based on data. So that is something that we have seen. That's where insights kind of finds its way, wherein we'll be able to provide that kind of insights through being able to get all this data into a data pool and then be analytics to the key decision makers. So that is something that we've seen as one of the demands. The other thing that has always surfaced out, as Rajiv was rightly saying, since we're talking about professional services industries, we're talking about people. And often the challenge is how you're going to be linking these skills with these resources that is there in the system, but then always trying to figure out the availability versus allocation versus billability, how much of it is utilized, how much of it not utilized. That's a common challenge across all professional services that we've seen, always trying to find out what's the bench or how best you can utilize the bench to make your projects profitable and reuse, have the ability to forecast and all of that, right? So that is one aspect. I'm just calling out the pain points, and maybe a solutioning we'll do it a little later. Then the client billing. Looking at the client billing, right, as Rajiv hit upon the nail, saying that it's just not T&M and fixed price. That's not the only modalities that is there. You've got different types of modalities like a headcount billing or a fixed capacity billing. There are units of delivery based on the number of calls taken. So many varieties of, within the same industry, you have different varieties of billing. And that's one challenge. And the other one I would say is more so because everybody is going to be billing based on timesheets, that productivity aspect where time to capture the time, submit it, approve it on time, being able to do that, turn around quickly, get it all approved by the 30th of the month, get it all billed by the next 5th of the month. So these are all the operational challenges that we see. It's not necessarily an application problem, but I think a few tools around that is a space will definitely help a couple. So that's these are the asks based on which we have developed our Evergreen products and Empower products. So
that's great. I mean, I really liked these points around kind of creating the specific asks into the product itself, right? And if you are referring to that as the key differentiator, why don't you lead on that conversation itself to introduce Evergreen and Empower itself, right? And then probably I can probably ask a few relevant questions that I have heard from the CFOs that we've been talking to.
I think firstly, as I was saying, right, getting the insights right. So let me just explain what is Evergreen and what's Empower, and then go on to touch upon the aspects of what is there in Evergreen and what's there in Empower, and talk about, show a few use cases of Empower as well. So when we're looking at Evergreen, it's mostly all the transactional, the process related enhancements, what I was telling, right? Invoicing in different formats or invoicing for different types of billing capabilities, all those kind of transactional layer changes is there in your Evergreen. Whereas in your Empower, which is over and above the Evergreen, it is more for all this collaboration and insights and being able to leverage the data that is there in a better way, right? Either in terms of insights or being able to contribute to the productivity tools as empowering your people and all of that. So that in a nutshell is pretty much what I'm talking about. So let me quickly take you to the insights, some of the insights that we have built. So as I was talking about project profitability, here we're looking at one of the insights that we have built that is around revenue by parent project. Parent at the top, you have all of these metrics as to what's the revenue, what's the sales, what's the margin that you have. And this could be across all your entities or only for a specific entity as well. You could pick it up. You could probably choose only for one particular project, what's the data, and see the analysis of that data as well. So you could go around and be able to play around with this data, make decisions as to which is the project that you need to focus more on and be able to take more decisions. This, of course, then rolls into the overall profit and loss of the company as well, and where you're seeing all of the revenue based on either your product revenue or your service revenue, be able to see which is the one that's contributing to profit and what is the ones that require a little bit more of attention. You would also be able to see your basic breakup of all your categories that drive into making of your profitability, and also the drivers, the key drivers as well. You'll be able to see through that and be able to make better decisions around controlling these expenses or increasing the revenues around these lines. So these are some of the insights that have been built, very few of them that I have brought in. We've got basically finance-based insights that can help your customers, insights that gives you more, predictive analysis around your intercompany kind of scenarios as well. The other thing that we have seen is on the ground, when we're looking at people operating on the ground, the project managers, the way they'll be able to contribute better to the project profitability is through their visibility of what's been there with them. That is basically their financial progress versus your executional progress. When I say executional progress, it's more like how much of the work is completed and how much is to be yet to be completed. Whereas your milestone billings are still ticking, you are actually probably executing the project in DevOps or in some other such platform. So we've built a dashboard which kind of integrates both the stories. So we've got more so, from the project operations, we've got a project which then, as and when it's created, there is a flow which kind of publishes this to DevOps. So then there is redundancy is removed, right? So there's a project, immediately it creates a project in Azure DevOps. It creates all your tasks for the project manager to be able to manage it over here on the executional front, be it code and bugs and all of that. And at the same time, he doesn't have to go to two different systems, but probably live in Teams and be able to see all of this data coming in from both the systems, be it from your DevOps or from project operations, and at the same time be able to see the key metrics of around utilization versus billability for these projects, manage that as well, and be able to see all of the data over here. We've also provided a lot of capability around being able to enter time directly over here, any alerts, any expenses, any being able to approve requests and all of that, and also be able to manage any alerts and emails and all of that. So double click on this dashboard will take you into the BI dashboard, which also gives you a little more details of these various BI flows. So these are the ways we kind of empower the people in the organization to be able to do their work better and without going to too many silo systems, all in one dashboard. And of course, I agree that all of this is things that are the salient features of Microsoft, which we put it together to get out this experience. I'd like to conclude over there. Hand it over to you, Kapil.
No, thank you, Priya. Thanks a lot. Honestly, when you were talking about Azure, DevOps, and the various connections in between, I was losing you a bit over there because we are finance folks, right? We are not technically that savvy at times, right? And our challenges, while kind of are the ones that you really addressed, right? Honestly, because one of the key things that we typically face is even as the CEO of one organization here, right? My ability to see information in real time across my various divisions, across my projects, in a way that it makes sense, right? Contributing towards the top line or the bottom line of the companies is a very important aspect. And I think what you just showed was simply brilliant because in a way, uh, much of our collaboration between the various stakeholders really happens through teams, right? For all those who are working on the Microsoft platform, Teams is by far the place where we all live in, right? So whether it's your Outlook or whether it's your Teams, that's where we really live our lives. So if you can bring those dashboards, if you can bring some of those actions that one requires, right? For example, as simple as raising a query to somebody in your team and getting that query immediately answered, right? I think it's a very important thing because that flow basically means that people can do the right approvals, they can look at the same information that you are looking at, and there are no information silos really, right? I think the extended beauty which I felt was also that even your project managers are working on the same platform, right? Which essentially means that what they see, what they present is what finance sees, right? And it's the same information that finance is working forward on. And I think this can truly change for a simple metric like DSO, right? In our industry, one of the key challenges that we always have is how much of work is done, what's the WIP, and how much can I really bill, and how much do I need to kind of hold on. And if you can see this from a perspective of the execution of the project, the real-time execution of the project, it's even more valuable, right? Uh, Priya, I think this is good, but at the same time, I'm sure even you have seen this question around, how much time does it take to get me to have this capability, right? And I'm just looking at some of the survey questions here, right? Everybody, so the most of the participants have called out project profitability as one of the key, kind of asks. And second, as I think all of us were talking about, was this consolidated and real-time information on the financial data, right? So in a way, I think we're probably talking about things which are relevant to the finance leaders here. Uh, uh, and I hope some of these questions are getting answered. And the other focus that has come in from the other question that said was connected financial management systems, which is the most important thing because a lot of these systems exist. And as Rajiv started this conversation with that, the data really does exist. You are not really creating new data. I think you are you need the data to come together in a meaningful way so that it allows you to take the right decisions, right? But I think in that journey, you need some foundational elements to be set up, right? So how fast, right, can an organization think about going towards setting up some of these systems? And I know, Priya, it's a very broad question, right? Right.
Sure.
I hope you can throw some lights on that as well.
Sure, Kapil. Depending on the size of the organization, generally it takes several months to get to that start. But I think since we've been in this industry for such a long time, almost 30 years now, so we're able to tailor it. We exactly understand what is the professional services need. So we've created an accelerator called SA Go, which is a tool set which kind of provides you a kickstart to get going onto the project implementations. Basically, it has a lot. It has a configured golden environment. It has the demo data like your chart of accounts, your posting profiles, all the plumbing that's required to get the consultants just concentrating only on the process flows that are very specific to the organization, only a focus on that will reduce this from months to weeks. Sorry?
Sorry, I thought you were presenting something. Yeah.
No. So I was just going to present that. Yeah, I think it will reduce this from months to weeks and be able to, reduce all of that effort of, sitting down, collecting that information from the customers on what is the data, what is the configuration, instead of focusing on all that, which is a repeated task. The consultants can actually focus on what's the business process that there is a person requires or the customer requires, get that configured and get going. So that is what we think is SAGO, and that complemented with our Accelerate methodology, which is basically our, our project management tool that we say is pretty much on DevOps configured, where we have all of the business processes led. It's more of business process led implementation, and it's all there on DevOps for both the customer as well as for the consultants to be able to view the progress of the project at the same go. That's what I think SAGO will reduce the time along with Accelerate from several months to a few weeks.
Okay, all right. So I think we are already at about 45 minutes, right? And we have just about 15 minutes remaining. I know this conversation can go on and there can be a lot of points that we can further discuss on. But maybe I think this is the right time where we talk about some of the next steps and what we wanted to offer to our participants here, right? So maybe if we can have that offer slide up. So folks, first of all, I think thank you very much again for staying for this 45 minutes with us. We would like to hear your feedback and your questions as well. And hopefully some of those questions we would be able to take right away. But then even before we do that, we thought this offer would be useful for you. We've been in various discussions with the customers at various, kind of points of time in their journey. And it's always surprising to know that while each customer, each of you have a very good understanding of your challenge statements, it's always difficult to put that challenge statement into a way on what you want, what you could expect from the various platforms that are there in front of you, right? Now, what we thought of was to offer each of the companies who are there on board today to have an exclusive session with us in which we would spend some time with you, give you a good understanding of the Dynamics 365 platform, the various accelerators that Priya just talked about. And then at the end of the day, give you recommendations purely from a perspective of a partner and from a perspective of Microsoft on what should be your next steps. Right. Of course, this is pro bono. There's no financial commitment attached to it. All we need is time of the right stakeholders, senior folks in the organization who are the key decision makers, to really come together for some time to have some brainstorming sessions with us, wherein we can actually, kind of give you a full understanding of where you need to be in this journey, right? This, of course, starts with the 1 hour Teams conversation, where some of us would get in together to understand what your business looks like, what are the key challenges that you're facing, what are the key asks that you have, spend some time to explain you what we do, right? And at the same time, then, kind of work along with you to really set up a few more face-to-face sessions, COVID allowing. COVID has been a big disruptor in this always. So hopefully things are, kind of becoming far more accessible now. So we would want to get together with you on some dedicated sessions. It's a half a day that we're thinking that we would spend with you, where first about 2 hours would be to kind of talk to you about the Dynamics 365 platform, give you a real-time view on how this platform works, what are the different capabilities, in a way that gets you, kind of fair introduction to the Dynamics 365 platform itself. Okay, we would also then give you a view on this Evergreen and Empower that Priya talked about, because some of these capabilities that we have built on top of the platform could be extremely useful in your thinking when you are, kind of moving towards your decisions. Uh, After that, what we would do is we would hold up a design thinking workshop along with you, primarily focus on three aspects, right? One is, of course, data that we all talked about. So data and insights in a way, and then collaboration, because I think, as we discussed, it's not just about setting the systems, not just about setting up the right dashboards. It's also about the ability for the organization to come together, adopt it, use these systems in a way, and also continually change these platforms, right, through various technologies possible, into a way that actually creates that, common acceptance, right, and speed towards transformation into the organization. So that's a bit that we would try to focus on that 1 hour, 1.5 hour session. We are very conscious that, we cannot solve all the problems in half a day, but I think, with that, at least with this understanding, we would then be able to close that day with a view that, what we have understood from you and what would be the plan to go ahead from there. And after that, we go back to our drawing boards. Some of us from SA Global and Microsoft would get together and really brainstorm the knowledge that we have received from you about your organizations, and then come back to you with some sort of a recommended transformation plan, right? Of course, this is something that would be our view. We would be open for a discussion with you to really, kind of help you understand and things like that. That's what we are thinking, folks. I hope this is something which will be valuable for you. And this is open to all the companies who've attended this conversation today. Now, with that, we have about 10 minutes remaining. I would now like to open the floor for any specific questions. And Bhavna, sorry, this is your area, and I stepped into it.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kapil. What an exciting and engaging panel discussion this has turned out to be. So I'd really like to humbly, first of all, thank all our panelists for taking out their valuable time. It's indeed so great that even on the virtual platform, we could engage so wonderfully. And as, we've got such amazing responses from the audience, we'd also like our audience and our esteemed delegates to now, I would say the ball is in your court. It is time for you to now ask us questions. So please do use the chat window. Of course, we've got certain questions already in, which have come across. So we'd, start off by asking that. But meanwhile, I'd engage with the audience and request them certain questions from their side. If you have any queries, please do let us know. So, Kapil, I've got a couple of questions. If you permit, could we go ahead with those first?
Yeah, let's try them out. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, Kapil, one of the questions is, is it possible to integrate our current systems with your IP and get insights into our data?
Yes, it is. See, the platform the IP that we talked about is fundamentally built on the core financial information of any organization, right? And this is a standard information which is there in most organizations. And then this uses, kind of the reporting framework to really, kind of get out some of the key metrics that we're talking about, right? Even some of these solutions that we talked about around, getting timesheet approvals or standard approval mechanisms in place for you. These are built on the overall team's framework, and use the Microsoft Power Apps and the Power Platform as the core technology behind, right? And of course, Dataverse, which is, I know it's a technical term, but just for all of us, Dataverse is nothing but a common data model that exists below all Dynamics on business platforms, right? Essentially, what happens in finance is visible to what's happening in customer relationship management, as an example, right? Or if you're building up approval mechanism, that information is available to your project manager who's probably working on Teams. So that's the underlying framework. Call it the base foundational plumbing, right, which allows interconnections across. So yes, by design, this platform is created for that easy integration, right? And hence we should be able to bring it on to your current platforms as well.
Right. Okay. Kapil, we've got another question from the audience. So, can the data from more than one accounting system be plugged in or integrated to Dynamics for a consolidated reporting with respect to compliance, especially? That's coming from Pankaj.
It's a very loaded question, Pankaj. But thank you for asking that question. Honestly, I think this question itself requires a lot of exploration, right? Technically possible, right? But then a lot depends on what financial systems are you talking about, how that information is coming through, the way this information or the model, the information model, right, or the data model through which this information that comes across could also be very, very disparate depending upon the systems that is it's coming from, right? So it would require a fair amount of consolidation effort. It would require fair amount of analysis to be able to really say that, how to do that. Is it possible to do it? I can confidently tell you it is possible to do it. But at the same time, the answer lies in how, right? And how much effort is really required. That would be my humble response without knowing too much of background around your question itself. But Rajiv, Priya, you guys are probably better experts than me. So please feel free to contribute onto this.
No, I agree with what you said, Kapil, right? I think from a technical standpoint, using the integration framework, we should be able to do it, right? What does that mean to the business and how is that data interpreted is something that would require analysis to make sure that it actually fits in the overall scheme of things.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it. Priya, would you like to add? Priyadarshini?
Sure, yeah. I think there was another follow-up question, I think, is for the same thing. What are the tools and Microsoft licenses you would need to start doing this? I think it depends on how do we want to do it. Do we want to do an online consolidation or an offline consolidation? Depending on the modality in which we choose to do this consolidation, depending on that, we probably look at, Power BI license or how. So the how is an important question, and what's it that you would like to get out of it? Is it more for compliance purpose perspective, or is it global reporting that you're looking at? The purpose of that consolidation and how are the two big questions that we'll have to answer. Maybe not just overall thing. We have to deep dive a little bit more onto your requirements. So there.
Right.
That's what I had to add. Yeah.
Sure. We've got another question, Kapil. First up from Sandeep, and of course, we've got Rama following in after that. So Sandeep first asked that how fast can a finance system be implemented, and is there any downtime for the business? What's your response, Kapil, on that?
So, see, I think fast, it of course depends on the size of your business and the spread of your business, right? But typically using SA Go, if you go by the standard processes and stay with some of the structures that we have laid down in it, we should be able to get you live in anywhere between 45 to 60 days for one entity, right? Expanding it to other entities would of course require maybe a thing on the standard template about 15 days you could take for one entity. A lot of this can really go on in parallel. And then as you start changing what already exists, right? That would depend on the kind of change that we're talking about. But then I think the sheer nature of cloud platform, right, allows us to really do these implementations at a much faster pace today. We do this completely on the Azure DevOps platform as well. So I think the speed of implementation is much higher. The other question that you asked, which was around the downtime, right? I think there is typically, you can't call this a downtime. Because essentially you migrate from one platform to the other platform. Right? So there is definitely a period in which you are probably maintaining both the platforms, and then you start moving your operations onto Dynamics 365 once you are thoroughly sure that your operations have stabilized. Right. So that's how it's done. You typically don't have a downtime associated with an implementation of a platform here in this case.
Right. Kapil, we're receiving so many, audience questions coming in, and
which is great, which is absolutely great, because I
right.
think our attempt, very cognizant that this is just a 60-minute session, right?
Right.
The best case that you can think of is really to give a start to a discussion, right? And that's been our humble effort. Hopefully, with these questions, it means that you're talking about something which is relevant to the participants here, right?
Right.
Uh,
So just jumping on quickly to the other questions we've received in the chat box. So Rama asked that what are the price points for data consolidation through Power BI? We already have a Power BI. So that's a question. If any of you would like to address, Kapil, please feel free to direct it as well.
So, see, obviously, price point is something that can be discussed in a one-on-one conversation, right? But at the same time, Rama, if you already have Power BI, I think the effort would be more in terms of creating the data model and making sure that you are able to get the right reports and the analytical information that you really require, right? There may be additional costs, which is dependent upon the number of users who are going to be top of that. And of course, if we are trying to use some of the IPs that we are talking about here, right, there would be an additional cost to that, right? But that basically means that you have something which is constantly getting updated with the various conversations and the new IP builds that we are having. And at the same time, you get the associated support with that product as well, right?
Right. And another question is there a D365 solution for e-commerce industry? And of course, Rama, thanks meanwhile after you've answered. So your response to that, for the e-commerce industry, are we looking at that solution?
Rajiv, do you want to take that up?
Yes. Our Dynamics 365 commerce platform is the one that caters to the e-commerce side of the business.
Yes.
Right. So I believe with these questions which are answered, and of course we'd love the panelists, whatever queries you may have, please to feel free and be in touch with the team on the same. And of course, I'm sure the team would look forth to answering the same. But before we we do have certain delegates on the call. So Kapil, before we conclude, I'd once again like to thank our esteemed panelists. And yes, please go ahead.
I had just one point. I wanted to introduce Abhinav Parashar here. His contacts will be shared with you on this Teams window. He is our he's our business development head for SA Global here, and he would be very happy to take these questions or even schedule these sessions that we have talked about from the offer standpoint. So please feel free to drop him a note, and he would take things forward from there.
Right. Thank you for sharing on that, and we request all our panelists to be in touch with our point of contact on the same. So with this, I'd really like to thank you all for joining us, and we'd always like to have all of us on one screen. So as we have our four distinguished, all of us being on screen, we want your brightest smiles and just a victory sign or a thumbs up before we conclude. Thank you all for joining us. So just a thumbs up from all our speakers. Thank you for your valuable time. At the count of 3, 2, 1, let's give it a thumbs up. And thank you for joining us. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for us to conclude with our valuable session. It was great and a truly inspiring virtual CXO boardroom. Those were definitely some thought-provoking insights on the 2 Ps of IT service organizations looking at measuring productivity and profitability. And now, on behalf of everyone, it is indeed my pleasure to make a few closing remarks and express gratitude to all those who made it today to the virtual CXO boardroom. I'd once again like to thank our speakers for the time and effort they've taken to share their deep knowledge and experience through the session and presentations today. And thus, I'd like to thank SA Global and Microsoft for taking this opportunity to enlighten us with their rich knowledge and experience. And of course, as Kapil rightly talked about, the very exciting session, which was like the immersion plus envisioning session, and the recommended plan ahead, which you guys are going to propose, so that towards the end, the exclusive offer for all our esteemed clients, I'm sure that's a lot of value to be taken back from this CXO boardroom. So once again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of the day. Stay safe and cheers. This is me, Bhavna Bhatia, signing off for today. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavna. Bye.
Thank you. God bless. Cheers.